So welcome to the channel. We will be seeing how to implement block architecture on your Flutter app today. So we will be making a simple counter app using block, and we will see in a very basic example how actually the block works. So firstly, we will create our Android Studio project. Good old Android Studio. We will create a Flutter project by the name, let's just say block counter. Yeah, then we just create the app and it's loaded. Let's go. So we have this boilerplate code. We all know it comes with the counter, so we won't be needing that. But first, let's quickly get our simulator running, and now we're gonna place it on the left side of the screen and do some good arrangement so it's easy to navigate, and we are done. Yeah, perfect. So what we will do is we won't be needing all of this, so let's just quickly delete the my home page, and we won't be needing this as well, the theme data and stuff. We will remove this, no title, and we will replace my homepage with a basic scaffold. There we go. Now let's quickly go through how our app will work. So a basic structure helps you to understand a new framework which you are not familiar with. So I've created this simple diagram. As you can see in this diagram, we have our root, that is my app, and my app is basically the starting of our app. From there we go to counter page. Counter page has the function block provider. So block provider has two functions to initiate the CounterCubit or your block. So block basically means business logic component. So the whole purpose of block is to separate the UI from the functions or the business logic that an app requires to work. So it completely segregates it. So once we are done by defining our qubit, we can then, in the child parameter of the block provider, we give our app view or the app screen. So now through this app screen, we communicate to our CounterCubit functions, and according to the state changes, our UI upgrades using the block builder. So now quickly let's build our app and integrate whatever we understood in the structure of the app. So meanwhile it is built, we will import the Flutter BLoC library in our PubSpec YML, and we go into the dependencies section and just paste it. There it is, and just run pubget, and we got it. App is still building. Let's close this. So let's get to the lib folder and create our first file. So we're gonna right click and create new dart file. So in the diagram, we will first go with the CounterCubit. Remember, the CounterCubit will have all the functions that are needed to be called to perform any operation. So let's make a class CounterCubit extends qubit, and in the parameter we will write int because it will be expecting an integer value. Import block, and we define the constructor for our CounterCubit. That's right. So first thing we will be doing is creating our increment function, right? So increment function. All right. Then we will need a decrement function as well. So create a decrement function. Okay. So for increment function, what you will do is void increment parenthesis, and we will be emitting a value that would be state plus 1. Means whatever the state is, return an addition of 1 to it. Similarly, we will be creating a decrement function, void decrement parenthesis and emit state, you guessed it right, state -1. Okay, perfect. So we have our 2-qubit functions ready, and now we will be making our other file, that is counter page, which is basically an orchestrator. So create new file, counter page dot. Okay, so in our page we define a stateless widget, that is counter page. We import Cupertino, and yep. So now we replace our const placeholder with block provider. As we can see in the diagram, counter page, so we define block provider, which will basically initiate our qubit. So as you can see, the create function, this creates or initiates our qubit. So let's make it in the parenthesis, then CounterCubit, put the 0 here, and let's import this port qubit. So we put 0 here because remember we defined qubit type to be int. So what we will do now is we create the child, and in the child we will provide the UI part, that is counter view. We have not made this file yet, but we will now. But before that, let us see where we reached here. So counter view. So let's create this lib new dart file. We create counter view, and we create another stateless widget, that is counter view, and let's import Cupertino again, and there we go. Now let's replace this by scaffold, and we need to import material. There we go. So now in the body we will use block builder. So block builder, parameters CounterCubit, and int, there we go, import block file, and inside the block builder we define our builder, that will be context and our state. Now inside the curly braces we will return a center, and in the center we will have our text widget, which will basically show the counter value. So counter value is in the state, so state.toString, and finish this. Yeah, so basically our counter text is visible. We will style it, make it bigger, text style, font size, let's make it 30, and great. So we will need buttons to change this value. So we will create a red and green button. So floating action button, row, children, container, and let's give it a height of 100, width 100, and color, let's give it red. And similarly we will create a green container for incrementing the value, so green. And then we have a child icon, and icon we need subtraction. Do we have subtraction here? Guess not. Minus. Okay, we have minimize, works. So same center, in the center of the container we copy this and paste it here. navigation. Great. So it should be visible, but no. Okay, so main axis alignment, space evenly. Okay, oh, okay, we have not modified our main file. It still has the empty scaffold, so let's quickly change that. Let's make sure. Okay, done. Counter view. Okay, let's import this, and in the main file we replace the scaffold with our page. So counter page, there we go. Let's refresh. Okay, this should not happen. Let's refresh again. Let me cross check. Okay, this is good. Let's just refresh, and there we go. So this is our basic UI with our addition and subtraction buttons, although we have not assigned the functions to it. So let's quickly do that. So in the red container, we will wrap it with gesture detector, and same with the green one, gesture detector. Then on top, parenthesis, and same green box on tap. Okay, so now we need some sort of access to the qubit, right? Because only then we can, access the functions defined in it. So just like in provider, we will create a final provider equals block provider of our CounterCubit and context. So context, there we go. So now we have a reference of our qubit, and we will use this reference to call the functions defined in it. So block provider dot increment, decrement it's a red block, and in the green block we do black provider dot increment, and there we go. So let's refresh, and so our simple counter works, and it works like a charm. So this is basically a very simple and structured way of understanding how BLoC actually works, how the state management around the Flutter application works. So now let's quickly look at our diagram so we can recap everything we did here. So in our UI, that is counter view, we requested block provider instance to activate a certain function of that qubit. So we request to the block provider that, hey block provider, please do the addition function of the qubit. Block provider runs it, and the function is executed. See how everything is separated from the UI. So this is the USB of this block. So once that function runs, the new state is updated in the block builder, and a new state can be listened via the block listener as well. Remember, we put that aside while starting the video, so we can basically place it in the counter view or counter page or anywhere in the screen. Basically it listens to the changes. So for now we will place it in the counter page. So let's go to the counter page, and here we replace this counter view and we will put it inside the listener. So block listener, and here we will provide our qubit, CounterCubit, int, and now we define the listener function. So listener, then context and state. So state, so this is effectively listening to the changes, right? So what we will do is we will put an if condition. So if state equals 10, 10, then show me a dialog. Show dialog. Yes, should be small. Show dialog. And then we need context. So context. Then we will need a builder, builder column, then context, and in the builder we will return an alert box, right? So alert dialog, right? So in the title of this alert dialog we will say text widget that should say hooray. So hooray, exclamation, and in the content we will do text, you have reached 10 exclamations. Now we will also provide a close button to close the alert dialog. So actions, then text button on pressed. So it should be let's say navigator dot pop context, and in the child we will do text that says close. All right, so we have the working code, so let's run this. This should not happen. Let me see what is missing. So we forgot to mention the view. So counter view. Okay, perfect. So if everything is all right, we should get an alert box on 10. So let's see, and there it is, as expected. So the listener is listening to the value or the state, and when the 10 comes in the state, so it provides us with the alert box. So this is how the block works. Let's do a recap. So my app, the app starts, then counter page initiates the qubit via block provider. Then in the child we have the view, and the view uses block builder to execute functions of the qubit. Keep in mind that the block builder can be applied to any widget to call any function of the qubit. In the next video, we will be making a to-do app using block. Subscribe me and let's catch up again. Bye bye.